All right, sorry about that, everyone. These tech issues happen, and hopefully we'll connect to Instagram, and it's all gonna be dandy. There we go. You can see that now live. Okay, perfect. We should be good now. All right. So welcome everybody. Let's talk about progesterone today. Low progesterone and how do you naturally raise your progesterone levels? Very normal. Like if you have entered that lovely time of 45 and above, and you start feeling like not like yourself anymore, then it could be due to low progesterone. So we're going to be talking about symptoms today. How do you raise it? Through botanicals, some minerals and vitamins, but also if you want to go the non-hormonal path, or how do you raise it through using bioidentical hormones. So all of those questions are going to be answered, and then we're going to do open Q&As, and hopefully we're going to cover all your questions. Cool. So let's start off with symptoms. And so for those of you who are already familiar with low progesterone and maybe are doing something about it already, tell us what has been working for you. And first of all, share your symptoms, and then tell us what have you done to help yourself. So one of the earliest indicators that you are going to be running low on progesterone is going to be, sorry, let me just check something on the audio. Okay, my audio should be good. Okay. Is one of the indicators is that your luteal phase becomes shorter. So let's just say your regular period was 28 to 32 days, and then most of your life, and then suddenly you come to a point when you're like, oh, I've got my period after 21 days, and then it becomes 18 days, right? So your luteal phase is getting shorter and shorter, and that is because the second phase of your period, which is a luteal phase, is progesterone dominant, right? The first phase one is estrogen dominant, where estrogen thickens the uterine lining, progesterone comes in, is like slashes it, right? And you get your period. So when that happens, that's where your luteal phase becomes shorter. So that's when first thing you might start experiencing. The other thing that women start experiencing is heavy periods. So some of you might have seen this as well. It's like I always had a regular period, and nice 3 to 5 days, no drama, and suddenly I've got like 7 days of flooding. What's going on here? And so again, it could be because you are having issues with progesterone. The classical one, then oftentimes it goes hand in hand. As our period starts changing, you might also start experiencing changes in your sleep. Many women report they can fall asleep, but they cannot stay asleep, and they wake up between 1 and 3, nothing to do with the liver, and they just can't go back to sleep. Or they are having a lot of ruminating thoughts, a lot of anxiety and unsettled feelings just before going to bed, and they just can't go to sleep at all. And that could also be progesterone. So the word progesterone, actually, if you think about it, progestation is very much of a reproductive, it's a hormone that plays a huge role in our reproduction, right? So in our reproductive years, is definitely you won't get pregnant unless you have sufficient levels of progesterone. That is one of the leading causes of infertility and miscarriages, is low progesterone levels. But in perimenopause and menopause, it's not about the reproduction anymore. It becomes more of we have big receptors in the brain for progesterone, and is the same receptor as the GABA receptor. And so for those of you who've taken GABA before, it's an anti-anxiety neurotransmitter, and it just calms you down, right? So a deficiency of progesterone can be could be the reason what's causing sudden anxiety, or just feeling like you've always been a pretty calm person, and now everything is worrying you, right? And so that could be a low progesterone function. But further than that, progesterone also plays a role in a few other things, and that will be one other thing I would just mention, which is often correlated with low progesterone, is hot flashes, which is one of the earliest onsets for a lot of women. When you start experiencing that, it's most likely is going to be perimenopause. Hot flashes could also be due to low estrogen levels, and so that's it. Taking progesterone doesn't necessarily fix it. Some women even take both progesterone and estrogen, still have hot flashes. And I did a lot of videos and resources on that. If you go to our website, hormonesbalance.com, you'll see there's a whole article we wrote about that. And a lot of it is to do with inflammation and blood sugar balance. So that's other things to fix to look at hot flashes. But progesterone goes further than that. And that's I think it's really important for us to appreciate the fact that progesterone is not just for reproduction, it's not just for sleep or keeping you, in a fairly balanced and grounded fashion, but is also one of the bone builders. So what happens is everybody knows about calcium, right? But then you may know about vitamin D3 and K2 that are necessary for bone health. When you look inside a bone, it's a structure, right? And the fascinating thing is, like, why do women who are younger in their 20s and 30s don't have bone issues, don't have osteoporosis and osteopenia? Because they have sufficient hormones too. It's not like their calcium is higher than a person who is in her 60s and 70s. It's just that her hormones are in much better shape. And so as our hormones decline, estrogen and progesterone, that is also the leading cause of osteoporosis. And that's what causes osteoporosis, not because you're calcium deficient. And so you can be doing all the calcium you want, and even D3 and K2 and boron and all these other minerals, which are important. But it's the hormones that create, estrogen creates the scaffolding, progesterone helps to deposit those minerals and into the bone structure, into the scaffolding of the bone. So that's that. And, then talk about HDL cholesterol is another one. We have HDL cholesterol. Some of you might have noticed from your blood work is that your LDL cholesterol has gone up too high. Your HDL cholesterol is low. And it's important to also understand that progesterone plays a role in managing your HDL cholesterol, which is a precursor. You need good cholesterol because your HDL cholesterol is the building block. It's your resource for making all your your steroid hormones, such as cortisol, DHEA, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, right? Without those, you really can't function, So, that's when we become old, frail little ladies, that just lose our minds, and it's just really no fun to go through that phase of life. So, some people say you can't hear anything. I don't think that's me. I think, can you just guys confirm that you can actually hear me? I don't see anyone else saying, can you just confirm that you can hear me okay? So I see already some questions coming in about breast cancer and all that. We'll talk about that. Just stay tuned. So let me just cover the basics first, and then we can. Okay, people can hear me. So all right, cool. Thank you for confirming. So this is so let me know what, I'm just curious, like, who here is experiencing these symptoms already, and what have you done so far that is helping you? So for me, the first indicator that I was running, like I was like entering perimenopause, was that my period started showing up every 21 days, right? It went on for about a year, and after that I went into the other side, which is I would not have my period for 2 months. Now I'm in a phase where I have it like once every 4 to 5 months. And when it comes, it's like literally for 2 days, and it's more like spotting rather than actual blood. And so I'm pretty sure I'm headed for menopause I'm inching closer and closer to it as I'm going through it. So that was my journey. And so I'm curious about yours. So let us know, whatever feels comfortable for you to share. So one of the things I want to talk about is, most importantly, is like, how do you fix this, right? And first of all, I want to say it's normal. It's going to happen. And you can mitigate that. It doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to suffer through perimenopause and menopause. We can go to it equipped with knowledge and tools and resources and supplements, whether it's, botanicals, or whether it's botanicals or bioidentical hormones, so we don't suffer. And who here wants to live a life with hot flashes for rest? It's not going to last forever, right? But it's like, even if it's for 5 years, it's terrible. I don't know about you guys, but like when I was having hot flashes, the part, like during the day I was getting a hot flash, it was like, okay, whatever, like it's not pleasant, but it's not that much of a big deal. I can live through this. But it was the night sweats. Hot flashes are basically night sweats, right? So it was the night sweats, and my Oura ring, the one that I'm wearing for helping me monitor the quality of my sleep, would just show this micro micro wakings, which I don't remember them, but the fact itself that it got me out of sleep caused the sleep to be so poor. And then I wake up and I'm like, I just slept 8.5 hours and I'm tired. Then I look at my report on Aura and it's like, oh, of course, like I woke up like 20 times last night, right? So we want to be, nobody feels good when they don't sleep. So we can fix all of this. So I'm here to help you navigate the waters. And not everybody wants to do bioidentical hormones. I totally get that. I'm on 2 bioidentical hormones. I'm on progesterone, and I started doing DHEA a year ago, and I love it. And I'll never go back to not doing it because it makes me feel that good. But I understand there's some women who have a challenge with that. So let's talk about bioidentical hormones. Let's talk about botanicals first. If that's the first line of defense you like to try, the first line of action you want to take, right? So classically actually, let's talk about nutrients first, actually. So if you still have your uterus and your ovaries, the ingredient, the minerals and the vitamins that are most important for the body that your body depends on for production of its own native progesterone is going to be vitamin C, is going to be zinc between 30 to 50 milligrams a day, not more than that. It's going to be B6 and probably magnesium, right? So magnesium is needed pretty much for everything for you to function properly. So those are going to be your 4 things. And by the way, right now, until the 20th, I think, of February, this is the reason why with our Progest Pure Cream, if you're shopping with us, then we're throwing in that free bottle of vitamin C, and it's food derived from amla, Indian gooseberry. It's one of the highest in vitamin C. So that's what you can. The first thing you can do is just replenish that. And vitamin C, it depends on the dose. The dosage is going to depend on how deficient you are. There is something called, if you just go and Google vitamin C challenge, learn how to do that. And then that way you can saturate your cells with vitamin C and then go more into the maintenance mode. Everyone has going to be a different dosage because it could be that you need 1 gram and I might need 3 grams because I'm a lot more deficient. This is an example. So Google that, learn how to do it, and then optimize your vitamin C levels. And then hopefully that's going to help you. If that's not helping, then you want to go to the second line of action, and that is your option is going to be something called chasteberry, also known as Vitex. And chasteberry is, in some European countries, like in Germany, in the Scandinavian countries, they actually use Vitex in mainstream medicine. Like if you go and see a regular OBGYN, not only is it covered by insurance, but it's also going to be prescribed by a regular doc who just went through pharma training, and they will prescribe Vitex because of the pharmaca research in Germany is so extensive on Vitex or chasteberry, right? Is the same. Vitex is the Latin name for chasteberry. Is so rich that they prescribe it to both women who cannot get pregnant because of deficiency in progesterone, but they would also prescribe it to women who are going through menopause and perimenopause, right? So that could be a second option to go to. Now, does it work for everyone? No. I'm one person who, for example, cannot do chasteberry. I would love to do it. I would love to, as an herbalist, I would rather take chasteberry than doing bioidentical progesterone. I just can't because I get adverse reaction to it. I try different dosage, different forms, tincture, pills, and I get throbbing ovaries, and I get mid-cycle spotting from that. So you need to tune into your body and just see whether it's actually helping you. But I can tell you that there's so many women who can't live without their chasteberry. So the way you do progesterone when you're in the perimenopause phase is that you're going to be doing chasteberry from basically for 3 weeks out of a month. So you skip it during, it's like the same thing what you would do with progesterone. You skip it during your period, and then you start taking it on day 5. Day 5 is like day 1 is your first day of your period. Day 5 is like pretty much after your period, and then you do it for 3 weeks, and then you take a break again. So that's that route. Now, then you have the bioidentical hormones, right? So we sell a couple of them in our store. One is called Progest Pure Cream. That's my favorite form. The other one is an oil. Some people prefer that, so we brought the oil back. We actually discontinued the oil, and then we brought it back because we had some very unhappy customers, and so we decided to do it, bring it back. And that is a micronized progesterone that is transdermal, right? And so micronized means that it's broken down to an element that is small enough to get through the skin. It's EM based. It's obviously not EM from like, you know, how Frankie and Grace, that series, they were like doing EM creams, right? That stuff doesn't work, okay? So it was just Hollywood's spin on YEMs, but it's a YEM that is taken down to a lab and then converted into something that resembles human progesterone cell and molecule, and then that's going to match the cell in the body, right? So if you have a favorite brand that you would rather support, then make sure that it's as clean as ours, so it doesn't have any phthalates in it, doesn't have like the word fragrance in it. It is doesn't have any petroleum in it, doesn't have any funky preservatives, right? So yeah. Okay. And then the often question that we get about is, what about oral progesterone, right? So if we talk about oral progesterone birth control, I'll say run. Anybody who puts you on an oral progesterone pill is clearly not a functional practitioner. Birth control pills have a price to pay. The body pays a price for that kind of form of progesterone. Anything from disturbing your microbiome to being vitamin mineral muggers. There are books written about that, like Dr. Jolene's book about Beyond the Pill is a great resource for that. But it's so I'm talking here about like even bioidentical oral progesterone. I'm personally not a fan. There's nothing wrong if you're on one. If it's helping you, stay on it. Don't change anything. My take on it is that oral is going to be, the oral works only on the GABA receptors in the brain. So it's going to help you sleep and it's going to calm you down. But it doesn't have all these other benefits I talked about, including HDL cholesterol, bone health, right? So and that's my challenge. And the other thing is, which is even bigger, is the fact that when you're introducing something orally, it's just yet another thing your liver has to now break down. And I feel like the liver is such a hardworking organ that it's like, why trouble it? Why tax the liver even further when we can deliver something transdermally? So that's just my take on it, and that's why I would never do oral progesterone. I'd rather go with the topical. So Jen, why don't we just take a few questions here before we dive into the other parts of our conversation? Do you want to pick something, and then I'll look at Instagram, what we have on Instagram. Linda is saying, I have micronized oral progesterone. Do you have evidence that transmental? Yeah. So, like I said, the training. Well, I got my training from an endocrine company that does hormonal testing, and so that's what I would need to pull out the resources for that. But that's generally what has been agreed on when we get our training, is that, like what I said, like the comparison between transdermal and oral. Melissa is saying bioidentical progesterone causes muscle tension and fluid retention for me. I've tried troches and vaginal application. What can I do? Well, it sounds like you haven't tried troches. Sorry. It sounds like you haven't tried just transdermal. So instead of doing vaginal, why don't you just try something like, for example, our Progest Pure that you apply on your body, on your skin. Does topical not have to be processed through the liver? Very minimally, very, very minimally, because before it comes to the liver, it's gonna get through to your lymphatic system, it's gonna be in the blood, it's gonna get recirculated and delivered to various different parts in the body. So it's not to say it completely doesn't go through the liver, it's just not as much. You're not taxing the liver as much. What do you suggest in the case of past uterine cancer and that hysterectomy, including ovaries removed? Yeah, so that's a good question. In the protocol, the standard protocol in Western medicine is not to give women anything apart from estrogen. I've seen so many women who had a full hysterectomy and were not even put on estrogen. So estradiol specifically. the challenge is when estradiol goes unopposed for a long time, this could be potentially causing issues. And especially if that estrogen is metabolized to too many dirty estrogens, which urine testing, such as Dutch, could show you. So the functional OBGYN protocol is to put a woman on bioidentical estrogen as well as bioidentical progesterone. And so, okay, past uterine cancer. So with uterine cancers is a little different because if it's a estrogen receptor positive breast cancer, again, the protocol is to only use progesterone and estrogen for women who have not had a history of cancers. And so then you have the other options that I talked about, which is like Vitex. You can also get estrogen from phytoestrogen, so like things like flaxseed. There's a lot of different herbs like black cohosh. In our store, we have Estro Boost, which contains hops and Norwegian spruce. It's also high in phytoestrogens, and we're getting great results with that. So those are some of the things you can just basically depend more on botanicals. If that's not helping, I mean, I have seen practitioners, and I know I have a number of colleagues who would still work with patients who have a history of breast cancers or ovarian cancers that are estrogenic cancers, and put them on hormones, on bioidentical hormones, but also monitoring them every six months or so, if not more often, and do something called the Dutch test and monitor how the estrogens are being broken down to clean and dirty estrogens. You have the 2, 4, and 16 metabolites in the Dutch test, and saliva is not going to show you that. Blood is not going to show you that. Urine is going to show you that. So monitoring that is one of the options. Jen, I'm going to go over to Instagram for just a second, and then let me just go up, see what questions have been. What cream do you recommend? Well, the cream that I'm using is our Progest Pure that you can find in our store. And that's the promotion that I'm mentioning. I just mentioned that we are running till the 20th of this month. You get the vitamin C bottle with it as well. Do you find a certain compounding HRT can cause fatigue for women? Sure, of course. And so then the question is, what is the dosage? You have to work with your provider who, when you're compounding something, it's supposed to be specifically for you, right? And so, one of the cool things about compounding is that they put everything into one, right? And so you just apply that as one cream. The downside of it is that you don't know what's potentially causing the problem, right? And so there is the plus and minus of that. So I would suggest to work with your provider and then change the dosages. I'm gonna do something here. Just give me 1 second. No, okay. Let's see. We've got somebody's asking about, Katie's asking about RA, which is rheumatoid arthritis, which I do have. The hormones help with joint pain. Do follow Dr. Terry Walls and learn how to reverse RA, and she's an MS survivor, but it's the protocol is very similar, and hormones is going to be one of the things to look at, but you got other things to look at before hormones. And anyway, when you go more upstream and start with your diet and detoxification, then your hormones will regulate themselves. So then the question is about, can you take progesterone if you have breast cancer? So it's a tricky question, and you need to work with somebody to really help you, guide you through this. It depends on what kind of breast cancer. The protocols are that if it was an estrogenic cancer, then you probably will not be put on bioidentical estrogen. Progesterone is a different story. If it's a progesterone positive breast cancer, some providers are very careful. Others will say, well, it's worth taking the risk because it all depends. Progesterone also gets broken down in the liver, and if you're supporting your liver correctly and you're breaking down those progesterones correctly, then the risk is reduced. So work with someone you really trust. And by the way, I think Dr. Anna Kabeka is still in private practice and taking patients. So some of you want to consider working with her. Then she's available and she does online consultations. So this is a good example. Laurie's saying, I have all the symptoms of low progesterone, but my Dutch test shows normal progesterone. My doctor still wants me to supplement progesterone topically. Do you think it is safe? Estrogen was low. Yeah. So, the way I look at testing is just yet another data point. You know what I mean? It's like, just to share with you guys, like I did about 6 months ago, I did saliva testing and I did urine testing through Dutch, and one came back with they were basically very different from each other, right? And so because I know my body, I know how to tune in, understand my symptoms, and know which symptoms are related to what. Both of them had some things correct and some things wrong. And so I see this as more of data point and giving me maybe an indication that something can be corrected, rather than that being the absolute truth. So when you say normal progesterone, if you look at the Dutch report's progesterone range, I can't remember right now what it is, but let's just call it, this is totally made up number, let's just call it between 600 and 2100. That's literally how broad the range is. And it could be, Laurie, that for you to feel good, you might need to be at 1800. And for me to be good, I need to be a bit on the lower spectrum of being maybe at 700, right? But if I was at 1800, like the way you are, I'll feel sluggish and be overly, progesterone, which basically will be I'll be very apathetic and slow in the brain, right? And tired a lot of the time. So that's the danger with a practitioner saying your progesterone looks good. You've got to look at the symptoms and look at the range and realize the range is just a range, and that person can still be too high or too low on that range. So it's really important to map those two together. A good practitioner would always know to map your symptoms with your results and not just go by paper results. I'm finding that Progest Essence Plus is helpful. I'm about to start taking Vitex. Cool. Kundalini is saying, I was diagnosed with premenopause at 27. I started with anxiety and hot flashes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So many of you are saying you've got hot flashes and no sleep. I only get nice sweats during my period. Yeah, because that's where your hormones, both your estrogen and progesterone, are at the lowest, right? When you have your period. So that's why. Soul Speak Listen said, I love the HGA too. I know. I could not do it without it now. Somebody's asking, what does the HGA do? The HGA is a precursor for testosterone, and then from testosterone, you produce your estrogens. So that's what I think what helps me a lot is just getting my testosterone up higher too, not just estrogen. Amy is saying, Welena's B Maximus is the best. Thank you. That's a very energizing vitamin. Amy is saying, I can't take a chaseberry because I have uterine fibroids. Can you buy the progesterone cream anywhere in the world? Well, not really. Actually, hormones are some of the hardest things to ship, so we wouldn't even ship international to you. Try to find something locally to you. Compounded progesterone cream is so expensive. Yeah, it certainly is. Can I just order the progesterone cream from you? Yeah, sure. The link is in the bio. I need something to help me sleep. Amy is saying, so you guys, so I'm not saying I don't want to be, be oh, fix your progesterone and your sleep is going to get fixed. If your sleep is suffering because of low progesterone, then that's going to help it. But it could also be that your sleep is compromised because of a lot of other reasons. And so I just want to be fair in that respect. And I've written a very comprehensive article about sleep, how to fix sleep after 45. Jen, would you mind sharing that in the comments? And take a look at that, because there's so much more. We become a lot more sensitive to blue light, for example, so electronic devices before going to sleep, magnesium deficiency is another common cause. Yes, low progesterone could also be low estrogen, can be causing poor sleep. I mean, the list is pretty long of why you're not sleeping correctly. So I would suggest to go through the list and see what is yours. Will low progesterone cream help with low mood? Possibly. When do you use it? So let's talk about the when to use it. You guys, there's can you rewatch this? Yeah. So the replay is gonna be available here. I'm gonna post it after the recording is over. Okay, so let's talk about when to use it and where to use it. Okay, so that's some of the most common questions. So let's start off with the when first. So if you are a menstruating woman who's trying to get pregnant, you do progesterone for 14 days out of your cycle, right? Out of 28, so half of your cycle. And you start off on so if your cycle is, let's say, 28 days, the first day of your period is day 1. You go into day 14, which is probably where your ovulation is going to start. And then from day 14 till you get your period, that's when you have your progesterone dominant phase, and that's when you do progesterone. We'll talk about those in just a second. And then if you are menstruating but you don't plan to get pregnant, then you can do for 3 weeks. So you can do it, don't do it on your period. You just stop during your period. So day 1 to day 5, you're off progesterone, and then you get on progesterone day 6, and then continue on until you get your period. If you are in perimenopause and your period is all over the place, then you just wait for your period, get your period, let it finish, and then you stop progesterone and you continue until you get your period again. Okay, so like for example, I can be on progesterone like for months at a time, taking a few days of break here and there. So that's what takes me, and then I stop when I get my period. So that takes me to the last group of women, which is in menopause. You stop your period altogether, and then you can do your progesterone for 25 days out of a month. So you're taking a 5-day break just to kind of reset everything. Okay, so that's about when. Let's talk about where to apply it. So we just released the video. Maybe you've seen it on Instagram and Facebook about putting your progesterone on like thin parts of your skin. So like where you don't have fat is going to be fast acting. That means it's going to get into your bloodstream and act pretty quickly. So meaning that if you apply it 20 minutes later, you might start feeling, if you're tired, it's not a sedative. So progesterone is not going to make you fall asleep. But if you apply it at night and you are like healthily tired, as you should be, right, then it's going to help you fall asleep and you might feel the effects of it. But if you wanted to, let's say, sustain it throughout the night, then you also apply it on the parts of your body where you have fat. So that will be your abdomen, it will be your inner thighs, it will be your buttocks even, right? So that's going to be your slow releasing, long acting progesterone. And I do both. So I do, like, our pump is 4 pumps. It gives you 25 milligrams of progesterone. Is a good starting point. And I'll do half of that on, like, typically I'll do my neck or wrists or behind my knees, on my top of my feet. And then I switch over to, and then I do the other 2 pumps. I typically put it either on my breast, I put it on my abdomen. Okay. So you can do a combination of both. You can also do progesterone in the morning. If you struggle with anxiety, then anxiety could be a really great, if it's caused by low progesterone, because anxiety can be caused by a lot of different things, including blood sugar dysregulation. That's why I talk a lot about doing savory breakfast and protein first thing in the morning, because that's what actually helps you. A lot of people have anxiety without realizing it's actually their blood sugar levels are dropping. So rule out that. And if it's progesterone, then adding progesterone first thing in the morning might actually be a really helpful protocol for you. So you can do half dose in the morning and the other dose at night. Can you do higher than that? Yes, you can. There are women who do as much as 40, 50 milligrams because that's what they need to feel the effects of progesterone. That's perfectly fine. There are practitioners who got even as high as 200 milligrams. I don't think you need to go there if you don't have to. I'm always a big proponent of trying the lowest dose possible and see if it's working for you, and then titrate up if you need to. But if that's, for most women, it's going to be plenty. So, Jen, okay, why don't we do questions for a few more minutes again, and then how do I take it if you had a hysterectomy, no ovary? So you do it exactly like the way I said about menopause. You just do it for 25 days out of a month, and you take a break for 5 days, and you pick what those 5 days are. Can I replace the Progespure cream instead of taking a bioidentical hormone? So Roxana, it depends on what's in your bioidentical hormones. If there are other hormones in it that you should not be taking, you should not be doing that. It's Progespure is only progesterone, right? So it's I don't know what else are you taking, and you should not be stopping your hormones just like that. Charlie is saying I'm 32 and I have low progesterone, high testosterone. I guess I have PCOS because I have hair growth on my face now. Also so fatigued. Yeah. So so a couple of things here is it's very common for women with PCOS to have low progesterone, also have estrogen dominance, and PCOS, so it's high testosterone. Yes. What you want to do, what you want to work on, Charlie, is, I actually written a book called Cooking for Hormone Balance, and there's a whole PCOS protocol there. The premise of it is to reduce inflammation, reduce your blood sugar balance, or I should say, manage and stabilize your blood sugar balance, right? Because a lot of women have testosterone because they have high blood sugar levels. And so if you are pre-diabetic, reversing all of that through diet, you can add a couple of supplements like chromium and cinnamon. Those are some of the really cool things that can help manage that better, but also very important to change the diet and that way manage it. Patricia is saying, I just got here. Maybe this question was already answered. I was found out to have a perimenopause and my naturopathic doctor has me on bioidentical progesterone, but I don't take breaks. Is that okay? The best practice, the way I've been trained in bioidentical hormones, is to take a break for 5 days. It's just to recalibrate the receptors, to give the body a bit of a break. But if you feel, with the caveat that if you feel great, you don't feel great during the 5 days when you're not doing progesterone, that might be a good idea just to continue on. But otherwise, that is the current functional protocol. I have had a hysterectomy, saving one ovary, but have all the symptoms of menopause, hot flashes, low libido, and night flashes. When can I use topical to get relief? So exactly what I said is like you are basically in a surgical menopause, right? Or surgically induced menopause. So you do that the 25 days out of the month. And, I would also suggest, Rachel, to work with someone or get testing done for estrogen and see what is your level of your DHEA and testosterone and estrogen, really importantly, because progesterone not always fixes all the issues, right? There's a lot of times with low estrogen that can also be problematic. And if you want to just experiment on it like by yourself right now without testing, there's certain safe things you can do, like for example, adding a couple of tablespoons of flaxseed. Flaxseed and soy are the two highest foods, highest in phytoestrogens. And so they're pretty awesome. And that could be very helpful. We have a product in our store called Estro Boost, which contains Norwegian spruce and hops. There's also things like Angelica sinensis, also known as Dong Quai. There is also black cohosh. Those are some of the things you can try. When I had hot flashes, that did not help me. Just, but some women swear by it. So it really depends on the person and what's gonna work for you. Jen, I'm gonna just go over to Instagram for just a second. Amy Ellison is saying, I love the estrogen boost and cheeseberry, fixed my mood, sleep, and normalized my cycle. Thank you so much for the fabulous products. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. By the way, the Estro Boost, we formulated in a way that it helps with hot flashes was the first. There's a lot of literature on the ingredients, the herbs that we're using in there, Norwegian spruce and hops on hot flashes specifically. So should we get a certain test first? So Confessions of a Hope Broker. That's a cool name. So you can, but you don't have to. Is if you like the symptoms I'm describing right now, your shorter periods, your sudden hot flashes, you can't sleep at night, right? You're 45 and above. It's pretty indicative. So if you have the cash, sure, why not? Progesterone, and that's the reason why we sell that in our store, is because it is such a benign, safe hormone that is very different from, let's say, like DHEA, you're gonna know what you're doing. Estrogen to some degree as well, but with progesterone, it's such a benign hormone that it's, it really is quite safe. And if the person is not feeling great, then you just stop right away. So you can, but you don't have to. Thoughts on pregnenolone. The challenge with pregnenolone, if it's working for someone, I'll say, hallelujah, go for it, use it. The challenge with pregnenolone is that is a mother hormone that then gets split into DHEA. And then from DHEA goes into testosterone. And then from testosterone goes into estrogens. So you kind of don't know how the body's going to break it down. There's all these pathways that we know about. They have something called cofactors. So it's like, oh, here's magnesium and a zinc and biotin or whatever that's going to help the conversion from pregnenolone to DHEA and then further down that path. But you just don't know what your body's doing with it. And so it's a little bit like throwing a thing up in the air and kind of see how it lands, you know? So I prefer personally to be more specific and just pick the right hormone that just needs to be replenished for a person. What type of magnesium? Our favorite is magnesium glycinate, malate, but not only in the mornings. Malate can be very energizing for some people. So glycinate, malate, threonate for brain function is just really incredible. We have something called Brainy Mag in our store. Like if you're suffering from brain fog and you just like feeling like your brain is just not firing the same way, or you're having a lot of anxiety at night, actually magnesium threonate is amazing because it's the only form of magnesium that crosses the blood-brain barrier. Watching from Barbados, awesome. I'm taking, Leslie's saying, I'm taking topical bioidentical progesterone, oral DHEA is still missing something, extra belly weight, mood fluctuations, sleep restlessness suggestions. So bioidentical testosterone, oral progesterone. So it sounds like you are taking two types of progesterone. I wonder why, and is it really necessary? I would get a second opinion, Leslie, on whether like what's missing, how to adjust your dosage. And also, you guys, I mean, we're talking here a little bit about like the bottom of the funnel, so to speak. And I want to kind of, you know, as a nutritionist and an herbalist, I want to kind of reframe it and remind you and kind of pull you back up and say your diet is going to matter a lot, how effective these hormones are going to be, like even whether you're doing our progesterone, you're doing DHEA with someone else, or whatever you're taking, your body is going to absorb, utilize, metabolize, and excrete these hormones way better when your body is in a state of parasympathetic nervous system, so rest and relax, when you have an anti-inflammatory diet, when you reduce your sugar intake. You know, one of the things, who here has seen my workout videos? I know I'm getting a lot of comments on it about like, wow, you look amazing, you look so blah, 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 right? And I want to, we're going to be talking about inflammation in the coming weeks. And so I'll show you my photo from my first cookbook when I was the heaviest. And I don't put on weight easily. So for me to be that chunky, it wasn't about, you know, it's not like I'm beating myself up. I'm just saying this because it really wasn't healthy. I wasn't feeling healthy. I was hugely inflamed. And so I'll show you then and I'll show you now. And I'll tell you what I did. But one of the things that all of us, as we're getting older, are getting a lot more sensitive to, and our body is not metabolizing the substance as well as it used to, is sugar. Whether it's sugar from fruit, sugar from baked goods, whether it's from your cookies and your cereals in the morning, whether it's sugar from alcohol, you know, it's whether it's the sugar from the frappe in a frappuccino that you're getting from Starbucks that contains 80 grams of sugar, kid you not. It doesn't matter. The point is that it's all sugar, and the body just doesn't metabolize sugar as well as we get older. So one of the things that I actually didn't really realize how much sugar, getting off sugar helped me, because I was doing a mold protocol before coming out to Mexico, right? You can tell from my shirt I'm in Mexico right now. I just bought this like hand stitched top, by the way. And, you know, and that's what helped me lose a lot of weight and like really get toned. Yes, it's the workouts, it's all my whole routine, and I will detail out in the coming weeks of what I've been doing. the creatine that I'm taking, the DHEA for sure has been helping. Taking progesterone, going to sleep early, right? Inflammatory diet, no sugar, very little sugar, zero alcohol. But it's really the whole thing. So I just want to mention, like, just having the expectation of you popping progesterone or DHEA and like be like, oh, I was expecting my belly fat to go away. It might help to some degree, but if your diet hasn't been modified to, for example, reduce the amount of sugar or alcohol you're drinking, then you might not see the needle moving fast enough, right? So it's something to be really aware of. Okay. Yes. Okay. Fibroids. Can someone take estrogen with fibroids? So we're not talking about estrogen today, but the short version of that is yes, you can, but you need to monitor how that estrogen is broken out. Let's not demonize estrogen, you guys. There's practitioners who would tell you that estrogen, you should not take any estrogens because it fuels fibroids. Clearly, they are not trained in functional hormones, right? A functional way of looking at hormones, because it's such an oversimplistic, idiotic way of saying it. Because guess what? As a woman, you can't function without estrogen, okay? None of us could be here, like being able to sit straight, listen, comprehend, if we didn't have sufficient estrogen. It's just what the body does with that estrogen and how we break it down to those clean and dirty estrogens is what matters. And so, is the dirty estrogens, is the poorly metabolized estrogen is gonna fuel the growth of a fibroid, or for that matter, the growth of a breast cancer, right? And so, and not estrogen in totality. So, yeah. So question about chasteberry, if you have uterine fibroids. I have not seen any contraindications for that. If you have any literature that says otherwise, please send it our way, and I would love to comment on that. But I have never seen that contraindicated. Me too. Okay. No, we don't ship international, guys. I'm sorry. Natural ways to raise progesterone, I already talked about at the beginning of the video. So when I hang up, you can get to it. Earliest age to get perimenopause, it really depends on the person. On average, it's like 45 and above, but there are women who get that there as early as 30. So some of it is sometimes genetic. Short cycle, 23 days, estrogen receptor positive breast cancer correlation. How are they connected? That's a big loaded question. Pretty photo, why don't you take a look at our resources on hormones balance and look at estrogen dominance, or better still, get my book, Overcoming Estrogen Dominance, and I talk about overcoming estrogen dominance, and just to understand what is estrogen receptor breast cancer, what is ER positive breast cancer, how to support your body so you metabolize this estrogen the correct way, so that you don't have a recurrence. What is Charlie staring at? Oh, Charlie's now asleep. So this was a comment from some time ago. Yeah, I'm actually in Mexico. Some of you know, right? I'm in Mexico. I'm spending the winter here. I love it here so much. And my dogs love it here so much too. They just go to the swimming pool. They go and jump in the swimming pool. They come out to cool off, and it's just so cute. And they allow it here, and it's off leash park. And so he must have been either watching his sister do something, or the window is out there and there's like a whole little garden. So there's always some activity. You don't suggest giving up fruits. It depends on the person, like how, I would say it, like there's no need to be so militant about it. And like, I don't want to come across as like being a sugar Nazi here. It's just, if you do a calculation of how much sugar you're consuming on a daily basis, for some people that's actually really, really high without realizing it. A banana here, I think, something else in your smoothie, and then you do like, some kind of iced tea, and the tea has got sugar in it. Sometimes can be really surprising how much there is, especially when it's iced. When you drink something iced, then it numbs your sugar receptors in your mouth, and so you don't actually realize how sweet things are. And then, and then you have an ice cream or this and that, like it all can add up to a lot of sugar. So I would say if you can keep your sugar intake to like 20 grams a day, which is 5 teaspoons, all in, including what's found in fruits and vegetables, then that could be a really good starting point, and just at least for a while, and see whether then you really know how much sugar impacts you. You know, I didn't realize how much sugar was impacting me and my weight and just how I looked and felt until I gave it up completely because of doing the MOLD protocol. And then I was like, whoa, I shedded like 10 pounds just like that. It wasn't 10 pounds, it was 8 pounds. So easily. It just moved like, whoa, it was like poof, gone because of sugar, right? So, and fair enough, you know, I shouldn't be surprised because my entire family is diabetic. My dad died diabetic. And so, you know, it runs in the family. We have definitely blood sugar problems in the family. So it's not like a total surprise. I might not be metabolizing sugar as maybe other people, but it was a great reminder. And all of you have the same challenge. That's why we developed this belly fat, right? Is because the body deposits fat there. It's the only visceral fat is kind of like the safer kind of fat. So it protects the liver, it protects other organs from not putting the fat there, so it deposits in the tummy. And that's the reason why. And you know, I talked about this in a couple of months ago about how our blood sugar receptors are just not as open to receiving sugar. We're not metabolizing the sugar as easily as we did when we were in our 20s and 30s, and so that becomes a bit of a challenge. Okay, so I think we should be pretty good for questions, I imagine. Jen, do we want to just do like maybe one more question, and then we're gonna wrap up here? How long does it take to use progesterone cream before symptoms change? You know, some women experience that like literally 2 days later. For others, it takes about a couple of weeks to feel the difference. So I would say give it a couple of weeks to give it a full chance. Yeah. People asking about MOLD protocol. I'm not going to share it until I'm done with it. So I've got great results. My MOLD, I tested before coming to Mexico. I'm not continuing on it here because, hey, I'm in Mexico. I want to eat tacos, you know, so I'm not going to be like walking around, be like, oh, I don't do grains, I don't do sugar. I want to enjoy my time here. Just staying off alcohol and like very, very little sugar. So, but I'm not really fully continuing the protocol. Plus, the protocol is going to depend vastly on what kind of MOLD you have. So, but I am going to share a protocol of what's the testing like, what testing did I use, and then some of the protocol. You were so popular, you know. Can I get kiss? Oh, thank you, my darling. Mwah. Mommy loves you so much. So yeah, so I will share it once I have it, and I'll show you like all the results, including I'm kind of halfway improved right now after the 3 months. So I can't wait to do like another 3-4 months when I get back to the United States in June. And then towards the end of the year, I should be able to share that with you. But you know what? You guys have, if you have access to someone, there's so many people now who specialize in working with MOLD. I would say work with them. It's so worth it. The way that has destroyed my summer last year, this last summer and the summer before, it was just so not worth it. And all these mysterious symptoms and just really my health suffers so much. I was not aware of how much MOLD can really destroy a person's life until I cleared it. I started clearing it. I'm just like, whoa, I feel so much better. Even my hormones are working better now. So no surprise there. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. I hope this is helpful to illuminate you a little bit more on progesterone, the safety of progesterone, where to apply, how to apply, what botanicals can you use to help yourself. And like I said, we have chaseberry in our vitamin C, zinc. We sell all of that in our store. If you feel compelled to do that, gracias, Vicky. And then for the vitamins, for Progest Pure cream, we have the vitamin C bottle that we are giving away until the 20th of February. All right, everyone, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you soon here in this space. Bye for now.